Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm really excited to dive into today's event, how to gain back up to 25 hours by outsourcing your mental load. I'm so excited to share a bit of background information on our esteemed expert today, Kelly Hubbell. And Kelly is the mom of three, a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old, a wife, an employee, a business owner, and a friend. She is not a superhuman, although it might sound like she is. She's the founder of Sage Haus, an online platform to help busy moms value their time, operationalize their home, and save their marriage by hiring and outsourcing household support. Kelly started Sage Haus to share her wisdom and knowledge with other moms, rewriting the narrative to normalize building a village and hiring household help. We are so excited to learn from our expert today, Kelly. We know how valuable your time is, and we're so grateful that you are investing in the Dreamers Doers Collective in this way. And with that, I'll hand it on to Kelly, and I'll give one pro tip, which is that you can leverage the chat to put in questions, and I will monitor it for you, but you'll basically opportunity to chime in there, but also at the end, we'll open it up officially for questions. But if something comes up real time, just drop it in there and we will account for that. With that, I'm so excited to pass it along to Kelly.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, snaps. That was fantastic. And I'm loving all of these comments in the chat around what you would, not only how many hours you would love to get back, but what you would do at that time, right? Like I saw someone say, I want more valuable time with my family. Like, absolutely. And then yes, getting rid of the supermom identity. Yes, absolutely. I think that we have, at some point, we changed from like calling someone a supermom as a compliment to now it's sort of like, oh yeah, she's such a supermom, but like, is it a compliment anymore? It's kind of like, maybe she's doing too much and it's like unhealthy. So anyway, it's a prison. Yes. So snaps. I'm loving this. I'm loving the energy. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to kick us off here. And I think you should all be able to see my screen. Yeah. Okay, cool. So pumped to get started. I am Kelly. I am the founder of Sage Haus. My basically tagline here at Sage Haus is have it all without doing it all. And so we're going to talk a lot today about how to reclaim your time, how to reduce your mental load, and build your household dream team. And so we're going to talk about solutions. Here's sort of like the agenda for the workshop, and it is workshop style. So I'm going to talk, and then you're actually going to get to do something. So there's a workshop component, and I want you to walk away today with like actually something you can use. And so I'll just like teaser that right now. We're going to go through an 8-question quiz that will then populate for you a dashboard, and it's going to show you how much time you're spending today managing your household. And it's going to give you a big, long checklist based on your answers to the quiz. It's going to give you a big checklist of all of the things that you're probably doing in your home. And then you can use that checklist, you can edit it, you can print it out, you can print it out and show your partner and say, hey, look at all this stuff that I'm doing, and how much time it's taking me. So that was kind of like a big part of my story that I'll walk through. But what we're going to do is I want to introduce myself, talk about my story, why I started Sage Haus. We're going to talk through some of the aches and pains of parenthood, like why we're here. And again, this isn't just for parents, but I find that there's a tipping point for parents. Like we all have, different capacities for different things. And there is typically like a straw that breaks the camel's back. And so we're going to kind of talk through common challenges that I see working with clients. We are then going to go through solutions. So like one thing you're going to learn about me is I am very much a solutions-oriented person. Like I said, you're going to walk away today, hopefully with like some action-oriented things that you can go and take with you. And so we're going to talk about my methodology, like some of the methods that I've used to solve the problem of the mental load. And then we're going to talk about like how you could potentially change your life and get back those hours that you're wanting to spend time with family or work on your business. I know everyone here is, I think, an entrepreneur or, well, some are entrepreneurs, some are like really invested in their career. I know that everyone here, like we all work and we all just want to get some time back to, or we want to like just hit a yoga session, which I was able to do this morning, which was awesome. So that's the agenda for the workshop. I will just do another quick, really quick introduction. So I'm Kelly. As Geshe mentioned, I am a mom of 3 amazing kiddos that drive me to the brink of exhaustion, but they are amazing all the same. I'm a wife. I'm an employee. I work full time in technology sales. And I always have been a total go-getter. So like I approached parenthood the way that probably most of you did, which was like with a lot of gusto. Like I had a lot of, high expectations of myself. I thought, how hard can this be? Like I have a maternity leave and I'm gonna, go back to work and I'm gonna do all the things and I'm gonna, prepare healthy food and make sure everyone is not watching screens, all of those things that we think we're gonna be, I think I went into it with a lot of gusto and I felt like I was able to hold on to that for quite a long time. And then I experienced some like really serious burnout. And I don't think that's very dissimilar from a lot of women. So, one statistic to share with you is that 64% of millennial women are tired. They're tired of being a super mom, a super employee, a super wife. And I truly believe that this is a societal and it's a cultural issue because we are the generation that we've really been raised in this society with traditional gender roles, right? And we're also in this culture that's telling us we can have it all and we should feel really empowered to be independent. And so I just feel like there's this huge dichotomy. And as women, most of the time, we're taking on a majority of the household duties, and that's on top of our day job. That's on top of working full time. That's on top of, if you're in the home full time, raising children, like to me, that is your job. And then running your household is like in addition to that. So whether you're salaried, whether you're stay-at-home mom, I think that kind of applies to both of us. So a little bit more about me and my story. So really my outsourcing journey, which is like teaser, that's what we're going to get to here, is how to offload and outsource. It started with, I guess you can say sort of my gateway was with cleaners. And I think that in our society is like, very like sort of across the board, like you hire cleaners once you're either your house is too big or you're working too much or whatever. You're like, I'm going to hire cleaners to help me and I'm going to get back 2 to 4 hours a week or whatever it is, however long you're spending cleaning your home. So that was the first thing I did. And mainly it was because even though we were in a 2-bedroom in downtown Portland, I'm based here in Portland, Oregon. I was like 8 months pregnant and I could like no longer tie my shoes. So I couldn't like clean the floors. And I was like, it's time for a cleaner. So that's kind of like what I started with. And then when my son was born, I realized that because he was in daycare Monday through Friday, I really wanted to maximize my time with him on the weekends. And usually I spent at least an entire afternoon on the weekends, like preparing food for the coming week, right? Like I would go to the farmer's market and peruse, and then I'd hit the grocery store on the way back for more ingredients that I needed. And then I would prep a bunch of food and then have it just like available in the fridge for us throughout the week. Well, this like immediately fell off my calendar, right? Because I really just wanted to hang out and spend time with my family. And there's only so much food you can prepare during nap time. So what I did then was I realized like, hey, I don't need like gourmet chef by any means, but it would be really cool if someone could come into my kitchen for 4 or 5 hours, like I used to do, and prepare healthy food for me and my family. And so that's exactly what I did, is I basically created a Craigslist ad. I interviewed a few people, and then today we have someone who actually drops food off for us, but we've done this multiple ways where, we've had someone come into our kitchen, prepare healthy food for our family at a really reasonable hourly rate. And so I actually have an entire like how to hire a meal prep chef course as a part of my offerings. We can talk about that later, but that was like my second thing. And then really my tipping point was after we had my second daughter, Stevie. I was like really, really stretched thin, like kind of on the verge of honestly a mental breakdown. There was like a lot of COVID happening at the time. And I just could not, I could not manage it all. I was at a breaking point. I was like, I can't manage, you know, the laundry, the groceries, the planning, the meals, the packing for trips. Like you guys know this list. I don't need to, you know, list this out for you, but this was the mental load. And this was the worry work that I was doing, you know, in addition to my job, my 9 to 5 job, making sure that my children, that my spouse, that the dog were all taken care of and thriving. And I was experiencing so much decision fatigue. I felt really resentful of my partner at the time. I think those are like really common feelings, not just when you're postpartum, but when you are taking on a lot of that mental load. So that might feel sort of familiar to some of you. So I'll kind of like circle back to my story, but I think, you know, this all ties in with this very common pain that we experience as parents, right? And that is the mental load. I think there's a couple of ways to think about the mental load. One is the physical mental load, the physical things that you're doing in your household, restocking toilet paper, making sure that groceries are in the fridge, like physical things, right? Picking up toys. Oh my gosh, I do that 18 times a day. And then there's the emotional mental load. And I feel like that is really, I mean, that's not something we can outsource, right? Like that is taking care of our kids, taking care of our family, like emotionally being there for them. But I feel like these really go hand in hand, because when you're feeling overwhelmed with that physical mental load, like I need to, oh gosh, it's 5 p.m. Somehow between 5 and 7 p.m., we're expected to like get dinner on the table, clean up all of dinner, put all the backpacks away, you know, like do homework, you know, do all of these things. And it's like all of that physical mental load, I feel like if it's sort of piled on top, it's really hard to focus on the emotional piece of mental load that our families need us for. So I think another thing that parents experience and a lot of clients that I speak to is like, I have no clue how to prioritize my time anymore. Like I'm a parent and I'm being pulled in all of these different directions. And, you know, I think a lot of moms, especially there's like this concept of mom guilt. I will say in my experience, I'm not sure if I felt mom guilt as much as just like the want to be with and around my kids as much as I possibly could. I don't think that's like guilt. I think it's just like you want to be around your kids. You want to spend time with them. And so I think we start to seek solutions for these things, right? I think like we start to get into this cycle of like, how do I figure this out? Like I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling overwhelmed with the mental load. I'm feeling overwhelmed with the physical mental load. How can I figure this out? And so we start to think about like, oh gosh, well, maybe I should hire someone. And I think the first barrier we run into is like financial. Absolutely. Can I afford this? Like, can I afford a nanny? Can I afford childcare? Like, can I afford for someone to come in? And we're going to talk a little bit more about some like creative ideas to stretch our budget here in a minute. But I think, you know, that's one barrier that I find, and I see a lot of parents you know, coming up against. And by the way, like, you know, I think that segues into the next barrier, which is stigma. So the idea that, oh, I couldn't possibly have someone else cook food for me because that sounds like such a luxury. And I think that this is some people are getting stuck in this. And again, like this is like a cultural norm that I think really is starting to change, where we're okay to ask for help and we're okay with someone else doing something for us. But I think that this is slowly changes. I think many of us are still like very uncomfortable with the idea that someone could help us and we're no longer the super mom, right? Just as a side note, there are many other countries who, you know, who do not view additional household help, like family assistants and nannies and housekeepers, with this sort of like stigma. So I think the stigma of like, what would somebody think of me if I hired someone to help me? I think this is like another barrier that we're slowly sort of working through personally, you know, as individuals and as a society. I know, like, as a personal anecdote, my mom was a single mom with 4 kids, and she was really frugal and scrappy when it came to finding help. But she somehow seemed to make it work because there was no other way. Like, we always had sort of like a neighborhood, family assistant, mother's helper, helping her do things. And I just think that, like, we need to get back to this concept of, having a village. And a village doesn't necessarily mean like your mother-in-law or your mom is next door. It means like this village that you find and that you hire to help you. The next barrier is really like, where do I start? So I think a lot of moms in particular are like, okay, I need all this help. I'm running a household. But it's hard to even sit down and strategically consider what I need help with. And so that's one of the things we're going to do together in the workshop portion of this, is really like figure out, like, what is that list? Like, what is the low-hanging fruit that I could get off of my plate? If there was something, if I'm looking at my plate and it's full, what are the things that I could take off of that plate first, to give me like 5 hours back, 10 hours back? And so, that's, we're going to, again, go into that. And so really, I think like what this all comes down to is a need for more support systems. So there's an interesting statistic that I'll share with you, and then I'll pause. But here's an interesting statistic, which is 70% of young families live an hour or more away from nuclear or extended family. So feel free to drop in the chat, by the way, like, does this apply to you? Or are you close to your family? Like, I'd be interested to see sort of the split on the roster today. But I think, what this tells me when I look at this pie chart is we're further away from our family. We're further away from like these support systems that we've grown up in this like village that we've had. And so as a result of that, like, really, we have to take the reins and find our village and like really find those like incredible human beings that we want to help us, and take things off of our plate. So I'm going to just pause there and see if, before I get into my next slide.
We had some great questions more around the food prep and just like some notes. Christine said, I'm curious to know if it's actually more expensive to hire a chef if you compare the hourly rate of a chef to the savings you make by having a clear meal plan, not wasting anything. So
yeah, those are great questions.
Just
I
thought it was really interesting questions. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting some feedback,
but
I
was just going to say she added, and she just has added like food is also how I feel I take care of my family by cooking for them. But it takes so much time to prepare healthy, fresh food for 5 people 7 days a week as an entrepreneur. So that's just like an awesome note that I think a lot of us can.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can totally speak to the question about food prep, and that is, I've done a financial analysis of how much money my family does save by having a meal prep chef. And there's actually like some good blog posts I can point you to on my website, as well as there's a course that I just put together that is a 20-minute like mini course all about how to hire a meal prep chef and how I do it, how I've 3 different ways I've done it, but like how we justify it financially for my family. But like, I break it down, and absolutely always hiring a meal prep chef at an hourly rate to prep meals for you and your family, like for the week, which is what we do, absolutely saves us money and food waste. So, and it also exposes our kids to lots of different kinds of foods. So, anyway, I would love to chat more about that. I actually have had like so many clients just interested in just the piece of meal prep, which, so there's more on that I can share with you. I am gonna go on. Thanks for these comments about like, yeah, where your family is. Yeah. So I feel like a lot here, like parents live far away. Yeah, family is, yep, we're 1,000 miles away from our relatives. Yeah, same here, same here. And so I think that's like exactly why we've got to find our own village. So, you guys can guess like the results of this, right? Okay, we're far away from family. We're feeling overwhelmed. We've had a kid. We've had maybe another kid. Or we're trying to like manage our job. I mean, it's so much. And so what happens is what happened to me, which is like complete and total burnout, right? I think this manifests in a lot of different ways. And I'm not here to like Dr. Becky everybody. So I'm not going to like, talk about like whatever, yelling and anger and all of that. But you guys, I think we probably all know what burnout looks like. Resentment. Like I think typically toward our spouse, we're feeling this. Like I have talked to I think maybe 100% of the families I've worked with are all going to like marriage couples therapy. And I think that's a big component of it. And I think a huge component for me personally and my relationship was going into therapy. Like a lot of it was around like the mental load. How are we going to split this up? Like how are we going to work together as a team now that we have this family that we need to take care of? And so really like a huge solution for us, now we have a lot of other things we're working on, but one solution to that for us was like taking things off of both of our plates instead of like pushing them around onto each other's plates. And so we'll talk about that actually a little bit more here in a second, sort of like that fair play model. Anxiety and depression, right? Like I've personally experienced postpartum depression. I think this continues on in a lot of different ways, manifests in a lot of different ways where we feel stressed and overwhelmed. We can't catch up. We can't catch our breath. And then it like leads to strained relationships. And that is like, in our immediately family with our friends, like basically when we're doing too much, when we're super momming too hard, like this can all really come, catch up to us. And so, we should find a solution, right? So like back to my story, after we had my second, I just was like, this is crazy. How is anyone expected to do it all? And this is not sustainable. And there have to be solutions out there, right? Like, I'm like, has somebody figured this out yet? So like, I started researching, like, what are the solutions that are at my fingertips? And so the first was I read this book. I think I listened to it on audio, and some of you may be familiar with this book. It's called Dropping the Ball. A lot of good concepts in this book. Love it conceptually. For me, I'm kind of a type A person, and just dropping the ball like just didn't work for me. I think it's awesome if it does work for other people, like, but for me, like having a pile of laundry that just doesn't get cleaned doesn't work for me. Having like my mailbox, well, I think one of her examples was like she left her mailbox for like 4 weeks or something, and like it was overflowing, and she just dropped that ball. But like that seems in theory awesome. That doesn't work for me. The second solution was like fair play. And some of you might be familiar with like this fair play system. They even have cards now where you can literally sit down and divvy out the cards with you and your partner. And I think this is an awesome solution if it works. We tried this in my partnership and it didn't work. And so I think for me, this kind of goes back to that idea of like mental load where conceptually love this. But if I break out a card for my partner and, he gets dishwasher for the week, I found that I was still, have you unloaded the dishwasher? Like this didn't work. And I think, if it works, awesome. So the next solution is like, this is, it's kind of like tongue in cheek here, but like medication and meditation, right? Like I'm now I'm at like my OB's office and I'm like, all right, I'm trying all this stuff. I feel burnout. I feel overwhelmed. Like, what do I do? She's like, you need some Zoloft? And I'm like, well, maybe I do. Maybe I should try that. Right. Like or it's like, well, have you been meditating? Like how, I think there are a lot of solutions. My point is like, there are a lot of solutions out there. If they work for you, that's amazing. That's awesome. For me, the solution that I found and the one that I want to share with you guys is outsourcing and offloading that mental load. And so I think, again, like we get in this cycle and we get in our head. And one of those things is like, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I kept going back to like, wait a second, I chose this life. And like, I really love my kids and you know, I love my home and I'm so happy, but also like, and, and you kind of should yourself, like, I should feel, you know, I should feel happy. I should feel more like, oh, bless this mess. This is, but really like, it felt really hard. And I was like, I need solutions here that like actually work for me. And so this is what I did. I sat down and I like pulled up an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. You know, you mean business when you're like pulling up the Excel spreadsheet. I started making this exhaustive list of all of the things that I was doing to keep our household running. Like, I mean, this was multiple, like if I had printed out like multiple pages long, and it was a list that I ended up, I worked on it for a couple weeks, and then I sat down with my husband over a glass of wine, like no joke. I was like, you know what we're going to do after the kids go to bed tonight? I'm going to project my laptop onto the TV and I'm going to show you this list of all the things I'm doing. And I pulled it up and he was like, you do that? You do that? Oh yeah, I guess that does get done. And I think that he was really blown away, right? Like, what, like, oh, what do you mean you have to take the old clothes that no longer fit out of the drawers and then put them in a box and then figure out what friend has a kid or take them to donations, right? Like these things have to happen. They're happening, but they're so invisible. Like this is the invisible labor that's happening. So I made my invisible work visible. And so, basically, as a result of this conversation, my husband was like, this is like a part-time job. Is this a job description? And I'm like, yes, this is actually a job description for someone who could come into our home and like be another me and do a lot of these things. And there were other things that we really wanted to do. Like we had these aspirations of like going on a weekly date night. Right. Like maybe the first thing that happens when you go to couples therapy is like, how often are you going on date nights? And we're looking at them like, are you crazy? We have a 1, 3, and 5-year-old. We're not going on dates. So we also had aspirations. We were like, okay, what if we could find someone who'd like help us with this stuff and like maybe babysit our kids for 2 or 3 hours on a Friday night so we could go on a date night? Like, what if we can find this person? And by the way, like we also had these ideas like, well, maybe this person could also do the meal prepping for us. Like, do we keep that separate? Do we put it together? Anyway, I'll talk about that in a minute. But this is what we did. So I shared this list. Let me get back on track here. We also like sat down and figured out our budget. So we're getting really close to the workshop part here. So hang on with me, but we talked about our budget. So I think this is really important. I actually have a script that I've written to talk to your partner about outsourcing, about budgeting, about thinking, like, how do you talk about this? And I can pass on that to you guys too. But I think that ultimately, like you take this list, it's a job description, and then you say, I'm willing to pay someone X dollars per hour for this many hours per week to do these things. Now, I firmly believe, because I've hired multiple people now in these roles, like there are people out there who need a side hustle and they want to work in your home for 4 to 5 hours a week. They want to help pick up the kids if that's the thing that's like right in the middle of your afternoon. And that saves you literally an hour a day, 5 hours in your week. They want to do laundry. They want to walk your dog for 30 minutes a day. Like there are people who have flexibility in their schedule who can do this for you. Okay. So, but then there are other like really interesting ways to be creative in your budget. And some of the families that I've worked with have been really, really creative. So here are some ideas. One is I had one family ask their existing cleaners to fold a bunch of laundry. So like, we'll wash it and we'll leave it over here. And then could you fold it? And then we'll show you where to put it away. And that was like a huge time saver. That saved them like 2 hours a week just by using their existing cleaners. I've had families like reach out to the neighborhood kid who's like always slinging lemonade in the summer and see if they can like take on the afternoon dog walk. Like, can you walk my dog for 15 minutes in the afternoon? That will save me 2.5 hours per week. Huge. I've had families reach out to like a local cooking school. There are a lot of these. There are a lot of like local cooking academies. There are also a lot of programs in universities now that are like, you know, for students who want to become a registered dietitian. And students have a super flexible schedule. There are a lot of them who like are becoming registered dietitians because they're really interested in nutrition and food. And like, these are the people who are perfect at preparing food for you for 4 or 5 hours a week, because like they need a side hustle. They want to make some money, and you need this too. So there's an idea. And then I think the last one is like, I think we've all heard this concept of like mother's helper, like someone in the neighborhood who is like, maybe they're kind of right at the babysitting age, but you're not ready to leave them with your kids, but like having them come and play with your kids while you can do something else. Like you can jump on the Peloton, or you can, like go through your closet, or I don't know, something. You can be productive. And I still think that's like a huge, huge win. So those are just some ideas. So basically, then we went through this hiring process where we used this job description. We posted this job to a bunch of different places, including care.com, Fitter City, Craigslist. I actually have another like free manual talking about like where to find your village. This is something you can find on Sage Haus. And then we evaluated candidates. We interviewed them. We did reference checks. This is super, super important. I believe that reference checks are important. And then we did final interviews, and then we implemented and onboarded someone. So we've had a house man. And then I'll talk about like our combination here in a minute, but we have a house manager who works in our home. She started with us at like 10 to 15 hours a week. And then she increased slowly to 20 hours. And now she works for us for about 25 hours a week. And she's sort of like an everything type person. I'll just make a really quick note that like, there's a lot more that happens here. This is what I help clients with, which is like the hiring, the implementation, the onboarding, like putting together an employment agreement. That's something we offer. Talking about like a 30-day trial period, expectation settings. I think it's really important with this person because you want them to be successful. They want to be successful. And so one other thing like Sage Haus offers is a bunch of checklists that are either like pre-made for you, or you can make your own checklist, like a morning checklist, an evening checklist, a weekly checklist. Like, here are all the things in my home that need to happen. Okay. Step 5, frolic in your new life. So we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm going to pause because I want you guys to go to, let me actually write it in the chat. mysagehaus.com. And what you can do, hopefully that works. Maybe I need to actually put the link in. I can share my screen, and basically, here we go. So what you guys can do is go onto my website, mysagehaus.com. If you click on the button, it's on the top right, free quiz and house checklist. I can also do this. I'll show you, I'll do this with you. I'm going to stop share, and then I'm going to share my other window here. And okay, so if you're on here, there's this little button, free quiz and house checklist. So this is the 8 questions that's going to give you a dashboard of how much time you're spending. This is totally free. So I'll show you exactly how to do this. I got to do this because I'm already obviously signed up for my own thing. And then, okay, I'm going to open this up. Okay, so there's a quiz on here. It's 8 questions long. I'll walk through this, and then you guys can do this at the same time, and I will sort of like show you what this ends up with on a house checklist. So my house includes these humans. I've got all of them, and it also includes cars, plants, and pets. I have a dog. My house also includes all of these spaces, a home gym, outdoor area. My ideal meal planning and cooking situation is, there are a bunch of options here. Like, I'll do the planning, grocery shopping, and cooking. I don't need help, all the way to like, I want someone to do all of these things. And then there's like some in between. So for me, I like help with all of the above, at least Monday through Friday. And then I'm interested in utilizing help for the following. For me, date nights. Yes, I could use some holiday magic help. Yes, I could use help gift shopping for all of the toddlers that I need. Party planning. Yes. Travel. Sure. I could really use help like prepping us for travel. And then which of the following best describes your needs? General home management, food, childcare, cleaners. I'm not sure yet, exploring options. And then, if I had an extra hour in the day, how would I spend it? For me, like I would go to a yoga class. So I'm going to put moving my body, but there's a lot of options in here. This is sort of just to get you thinking about like how you would spend your time if you had an extra hour back in your day. And then what's your budget? This again is sort of just for you to start thinking about like, oh, what is my budget? You know? Okay. Then what's going to happen is, it's going to take all of your results, and what it's doing in the background is it's putting together a dashboard for you of all of the time that you're spending based on answering those 8 questions, and it's going to put a checklist together for you too. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to just like skip forward and go to mine so that I can show you what your output will look like. Because I kind of want to just show you guys what you get with this. Okay. All right. Okay. And again, like go check out your dashboard. Let me see. Mine's like still kind of loading here, but basically you'll see in your quiz results, you'll see how many hours you could save with house help. And that's calculating like the hours that you're spending based on what you put. Hours per week, hours per month, hours per year. This is still calculating, but this will give you a dashboard of where your time is spent, what roles you could consider hiring in your home. And then here are the tasks. I have 5 on here that I probably am agonizing over. And then this is something I'd like to free up time for. You can also go to house checklist, and this is what drops in all of the things that you're probably doing in your home. So you can sort by category here, but you can just go and look at all of these things that you're probably doing in your house, kind of like my house. And then how often they're taking place. You can actually click into these. So like, special orders, like how often are you doing special orders? You can come in here and edit this. Like, oh, you know, we actually do special orders only like once a quarter, and you can change that. And how long does that take? And that will recalculate onto your dashboard how much time you're spending. So, I will stop sharing. Did anyone, take this? Okay, hopefully that worked for you guys. It's still there if you want it. I'm going to go back to my workshop here. Maybe I'll just pause just really briefly. Let me see if there's any other questions that rolled in. Let me see.
There's one question that was flagged for later, but I think this would also work for now. Would you recommend something like TaskRabbit for finding people?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you want TaskRabbit to do. I think TaskRabbit is a really good resource for like that errand running or, you know, household help. For us, I didn't use TaskRabbit because I felt like it wasn't the right platform to also find someone who could like babysit and do kids too. So I guess it just really depends on what you want, but I do think that is a good resource. Yes, it's a good idea. Cool. Okay. So, oh yeah, yours is generating results. You'll also get an email when your results are ready. And so if you go to your email, you can like also click directly to the link. All right. So I think I'm sharing my screen again. So I'm going to sort of walk through this, and I'll just talk about how this works in my house. So my village is made up, I already mentioned these, but first, it's house cleaners. They come every other week and they do like the deep cleaning. They actually came today. So this is my favorite day now of the week. We have a meal prep chef. She works with me. We literally collaborate like over text or email on Friday or Saturday. And she says, what do you feel like in the coming week? And I say, I feel like a frittata and something else. My kids love your salmon, and that's what we want. Literally 2 minutes, because she has an entire like recipe list of over 100 recipes already that she keeps track of. And so when I say something, she can go and like look it up, and then she has it right there in front of her. And I actually have that spreadsheet. If you guys are interested in it, I'm happy to share it with you. But so she preps food for us on Mondays, and then she drops them off at 4 p.m. on Monday for us. And the way that I work with her is I pay her an hourly rate. She works about 7 hours on average. So I pay her for 7 hours, and then I reimburse her for the groceries that she buys specifically for our family. So that's amazing and completely life-changing, because I can clock out at 5, go pick up my kids at 5, and have like food ready so they're not like screaming at me, I'm so hungry. And so we eat. Also, they eat her food, because I don't know if you have experienced this, but kids sometimes are weird about like when you prepare them food versus somebody else preparing them food. Anyway, when I say Carly made it, they're like, oh, they'll eat it. It's like magic. So that's amazing. And then our house manager, like I said, she works anywhere between like 20 and 25 hours a week for our family. And I mean, she does last week. Let me give you like a little idea, like of the kind of, random stuff she does for us. Like she took our Kia Telluride in for a service, and it was like a 2-hour service. She took the Kia Telluride in. She also dropped off a bunch of toys for donations that we went through after our Christmas, because we had way too many toys. So she like dropped them off at Goodwill. She like completely reorganized our mudroom, and like took out all the shoes that don't fit the kids anymore, and they're just in the way in our mudroom. So like those are some of the tasks that she like helps us with, aside from laundry and helping us like pick up the house and buy staple groceries and stuff like that. So that's what works for our family. Now, that being said, there is a combination, I think, that like works for different families. And so that's what I help like lots of different families with. But really, like my whole goal in like launching Sage Haus and helping other busy moms and families is like, I want like lives to be changed by getting back hours every week. So like, I think you should, I'm urging parents and busy families to hire their village. I really think that like we need to be thinking about like how we really truly value our time. I think that like this, offloading and outsourcing actually truly does free up like a lot of resentment that like spouses carry toward each other, because of this like point system that we're keeping with each other. And then I think ultimately like this, by offloading things, like for me, I've really been able to like be more present with my kids, because I'm not constantly like going through and running through this to-do list in my head anymore. I'm not thinking like, oh no, we're down to 2 bananas. What happens if all 3 kids want a banana and we're down to 2 bananas? And like that, like, I know that sounds crazy, but like as moms, these are things that we think about, and they're part of that mental load. And like not having to think about bananas anymore, honestly, freed me up so like it freed my mental space up to like be more present with my kids when I was with them. It freed me up to like be more present at my job and in my career, and ultimately like start Sage Haus, because I would never have time to do this if I didn't have this incredible village behind me. So like anyway, I really think that more like I'm urging families to do this. Okay. And then I'll just tell you a little bit about like how I work with some clients. If this is something you want to do, it's really easy. I've got a bundle, like my bundle pack, which is basically my course. It's 45 minutes long. It's called Stop Doing It All, because it basically walks you through why you need to outsource. It gives you all of the resources in my ebook. It gives you example job descriptions you can use to copy and paste. It gives you pre-templated checklists for onboarding someone to help you, sample interview questions, sample questions for references when you talk to someone's references. It includes an attorney drafted employment agreement. So I also think this is really, really important. I had an attorney draft a universal agreement that you can use for a nanny, a meal prep chef, house manager, like anyone working in your home, you can use this agreement. So like, if anything, my clients like really, really love this. And then it includes the video workshop. And then the resource pack, which is $49, I sell on my website too. And that's everything I just said, except for the video workshop. Let's see. I also, like I mentioned, if you go to my Instagram, at my Sage Haus, there are tons of freebies on there. I think I have like 8 freebies on there today, which include like where to hire your village. They include, I've put together like a family meal plan for free. It's 17 pages. Like, go grab that. That's an awesome resource. There's the script about talking to your partner. Like, how do you talk to your partner about outsourcing this mental load? Go grab that. That's free. Like, there's so many great resources on my website. So that being said, I think like that's a wrap. That's what I had to share with you. And I'm happy to like answer questions. Maybe we can like open up the floor. Maybe if people have questions for these last like 10 minutes.
This is so awesome. As a mom and who's someone who feels like I never have enough time, like I just love how tangible everything is and was, and also you sharing kind of your own experiences, because like it's not just like finding tangible solutions, but also like it's a journey. Christine had a really wonderful question. I have a weird feeling question. I wonder how we can do this, which sounds amazing. I agree. All the while teaching our kids to take care of their space and cook for themselves. Are they both possible simultaneously?
I think so. I think they are both possible. I know that like my kids, we still have systems set up for them to take ownership and responsibility of things. So like, I'll give you an example. Like, we don't just sort of like let them eat their breakfast and then like leave their stuff out and then our house manager comes and cleans it up. That's not how it works in our house. Like, our kids know that when they're done with their breakfast, they take their bowl to the sink or they take it to the dishwasher. And we also have like a reward system set up for them for other things, like little things like getting dressed in the morning, like putting their stuff in the laundry hamper, cleaning up their toys, cleaning up the room. So like, it's not that, I think it's just how you're framing it and like teaching ownership and responsibility in your own home, right? Like, we're not just like getting them used to this idea that someone else is doing it for them. I think it's just like communicating that to them. Like this morning, I'll give you another example. Like this morning, our kids were playing in the playroom and the cleaners come, and we all know we have to clean for the cleaners. I know I joke about that all the time, but like you have to clean for the cleaners. And so I had the kids like pick everything up before school. Like, hey guys, cleaners are coming today. We got to pick it all up so they can actually vacuum, right? So they like picked up all their toys and they put them back in their baskets and we put them up on the shelf. So I think it's just like how you want to do it.
It's really awesome. And then before we open it up officially for questions, Lori was asking, where did you find your village? Where did you end up finding the people that support you?
Yeah, let's see, a couple different places. So let's see, I think my cleaners I found on Nextdoor. My first two meal prep chefs, each have been with us for about a year and a half. My first two I found on Craigslist. And my last one I actually found on a Facebook group called Portland Nanny Network. It's not even it's like for nannies in the Portland, Oregon area. And she just so happens to be a mom. So she was on the group and saw my post about a meal prep chef. And she was like, oh, I used to, whatever. So that, and again, I have these resources listed out in my Where to Find Your Village, but and then my house manager, I listed on care.com, Craigslist, and Sitter City. And that's where we ended up finding my house manager, was on Sitter City. I don't know if you guys have heard of that platform, but.
That's so awesome. So tangible. That's really, really great. Thank you so much, Kelly. Who else has questions? And as we're waiting for questions, I'm going to throw in one. And you might have mentioned it, but like, how many days of food does your meal prep do they prep for you? And then do you freeze it? How do you do that?
Yeah, she preps food for us for, I want to say 5 days, but sometimes we're so hungry that we only make it till Thursday. And we in our home, we make Thursday clean out the fridge night. And then if like we clean out the fridge night is Thursday night, then we can like order takeout on Friday. So We try to eat it all up by like Thursday, but basically like Monday dinner all the way through Thursday dinner. So that includes like she makes 2 breakfast items for us, usually like one egg type dish and one like muffin or like pastry type dish. And then she makes three or four, depending, dinner slash lunch, like interchangeably, dinner or lunch meals for us. So I guess 5 or 6 like meals is what she makes, which kind of has enough in them to like get us through for 4 days.
And it's so awesome because they also take care of cleanup and everything, right? So just
Yeah, so and she works in her own home because she prefers her own kitchen now, and that is kind of nice. Like she uses her own stuff. But our kitchen is like fully set up from the prior meal prep chefs that have come and worked in our kitchen in the past, and then kids school lunches. So we just basically our routine here in our home is our house manager, actually, she gets the food out and she packs the kids' lunches from the food that our meal prep chef brings. That's how we do it here. Or like when we're eating dinner at night, as we're doing cleanup, we'll like get out the kids' lunches and we'll just like put some food in from the dinner that they eat for lunch the next day.
um, this was so phenomenal and so comprehensive. I feel like you've been giving us like more than like outsourcing time, but like the gift of like time with ourselves, claiming the time for ourselves and having time for our kids, not divorcing our partners. So thank you so much. This was just like truly incredible. And I'm so excited also for all of us to check out your website more. Also for anyone, I'm putting in the chat a form where you can provide feedback. So we just love like what you loved about it, and any feedback that you have, you can submit anonymously. And anyone who wants to also get featured to an event, you can chime in here. And so we're going to wrap this all up. You can also drop in further like appreciation and gratitude in the chat for Kelly. And we're just like so grateful. This was wonderful. And I love that you're speaking from own experience, because like, and also like using just like your type A savvy brain to like figure this all out for us. So this was just like, yeah, truly incredible. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is really fun. Oh, you guys know where to find me. So, hopefully I would love to connect with any of you, like, on ideas or, anything at all. So I'm happy to be a part of this community and I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much. We can't wait to take what you taught us today and bring it back to our families and change our lives with that. Thank you so much to you, and thank you for building Sage House.
Yeah. Thank you so much.